Hi, everybody. This is Diane Liddington, and I'm here to talk to you about an option for data collection. I chose checklists, which might sound like, well, why checklists? Essentially, I chose to look at checklists because it was not something I had thought about before as a potential data collection source. In my current research plan, I am using teacher-generated assessments, tests, or excuse me, a quiz and a couple of formative mastery checks. So I wasn't using checklists. So I wanted to take a look at something a little bit different that I hadn't thought of before and see maybe if there was another style of data that I could collect just to get just another viewpoint on things. So checklists, what are they? It's relatively straightforward in its approach, I guess. It's a form of quantitative data. So my current sources, I'm using just quantitative. So it would be another type of quantitative data alongside things. When you use a checklist, essentially it's very similar to using like surveys or rating scales, 1 to 5, strongly agree, strongly disagree, that kind of thing where you have a continuum that people have to rate. But instead of having a scale, you only have 2 options. So it could be behaviors, observed, not observed, characteristics of the classroom, present, not present. It could be skills you want the students to master, and it could be mastered or not mastered, something along those lines. But essentially, it's very similar. You have a list of things that you're looking for, qualities, properties, skills, etc. And you only have 2 options, yes or no, present, absent, mastered, not mastered, that kind of thing. So there's only 2 choices as opposed to a continuum of choices. So as far as, how do we use this, the kind of good, the bad, I don't really see any ugly, but the pros and the cons of using checklists, it's really quick and simple. It's really simple to come up with, really simple to give out to students, to teachers, to whoever your participants are that you're collecting the information about. It's very clear for them to understand. Is something there or is it not there? Do you observe said behavior or do you not? So it's clean, I guess you could say, in that it's clear the expectations, how to utilize it for whoever is taking or using that checklist itself. And then the data is pretty quick to analyze. So that's very nice. The opposite side of that, sort of the negatives, the cons, the data that you get from using checklists isn't very detailed. You're not really getting a super complex viewpoint of things. In order to make it user-friendly as far as the researcher and how you can analyze the data, you have to keep the list to a manageable amount of data. You can't sit here with like pages long of expectations and behaviors that you're looking for, or what have you, because it can become very overwhelming to not just analyze but use when you go out into the field. Say if you are using that checklist in a classroom to observe behaviors, whether it's the students or the teacher or what have you. If it's too much, it's too much. It's too much to see. It's too much to analyze on the back end. So you really are limited with how much information you can gain from it. It's really only part of the picture. So I just wanted to throw some samples in there, like, hey, Diane, what does that actually look like? I pulled this off of Teachers Pay Teachers. It was a free download, yay! So if you're a science teacher, let me know. Got this from Teachers Pay Teachers because I, two reasons. So I run the STEM Research Club here at school, so I could use something very similar to this with my students. It's editable, so I could pop in anything additional that needs to be thrown in there or delete things that don't really apply for our particular fair. But the other thing that I really, really liked about this was my students, we're trying to introduce a lot more inquiry with the implementation of STEEL standards this year. They really are focusing on the action and the doing of science. So within my lessons, I'm having students plan and conduct their own student-driven investigations much more frequently than we have in the past. So having something like this would be awesome for me to implement in class. Another sample that I found, this is kind of nice. If you were, the links right here, this is a professional development website. This checklist is for the purposes of being reflective of your own practice and things that you do or don't do to support the MLs in your classroom. So I do have a lot of them. I have through the past as well. So if I was to look at my own classroom and try to set a goal for how I'm supporting my MLs, this would be a useful tool as far as checklists. And then when it comes to concerns with using checklists as a form of data, honestly, it comes down to some of those cons, that it is only a limited picture. So it could 100% be valid to your research question. If you're asking if your current supports in your classroom sufficiently help or support the MLs, then using that ML checklist might be a very valid source of data. But if you're looking at something like achievement scores, it's only going to give you like a little piece of the picture. So I think as far as, answering the question of is it valid and is it reliable, it comes down to what other data sources are you using. And it's really important, I think, with this to triangulate because checklists are great at getting a little piece of the puzzle, but you really need other sources of data to get a clearer, fuller picture of, can you answer your research question that you originally started with? So summary, checklists give you two options, things that you're looking for. Can be super helpful depending on your research question, but they're only a piece of the puzzle. Thanks for listening. Bye.